Warriors, rise. Grand rising. Good evening, Warriors all over the world. This is so appropriate. July 14th, 2023 with Waters Above. And we were just chopping it up, and it's been 9 months since we've connected. I know he's been on the channel. He's a dear friend of our channel. It's just a very, very exciting time right now. The chat is going absolutely crazy. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to get together. You know, we talk outside of here, and we wanted to get together and bring this energy and frequency. And I remember the first time I met you, Waters Above, you absolutely blew my mind with talking about market cycles and the accuracy of the things you bring. And one of the biggest things I really admire about you is practicing what you preach. And it's such an interesting dynamic in this world of this whole crypto world and this crypto ecosystem and all the different people you come into alignment with and the craziness going on with the market. And the thing that I really admire about you is the calm, the poise, and being that calm in the storm. And you know, you saw it yesterday on Twitter. And one of the things I told people, and when all this went crazy, I told our people, I said, dude, don't go out there and say I told you so, guys. This is a moment in time where we all worked really, really hard. We stayed patient, we stayed persistent. But what this is, family, this is just the beginning to the end. The dopamine's over from July 13th, 2023. We're going to have a new thing to focus on. But that's what I wanted to really chop it up with you about today. And I know people are super excited about this. You know, guys, we have no plan. We just wanted to share with you guys emergency messages around XRP. There's always going to be an emergency. There's always going to be this new switch that's going to be flipped. But I think we can both agree that this is a systematic, planned out process around a global switch, around the financial system, spiritually, economically. You're seeing movies coming out that are absolutely shaking the core of humanity. But from my interesting perspective is my whole life is transformed when I finally took sovereignty of myself. And so I have so much to talk to you about today. But first of all, it's been 9 months since we connected. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing better every day. I can't believe that the last time we connected was 9 months ago. It was literally right there at the end of the Shemitah, which is something that I talked with you about in our first podcast ever. So, I mean, it's amazing to connect with you last minute like this. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so let's start there. Let's start where because you blew my mind when it came to Shemitah. Because one of my expertise is macro and microeconomics, coming from banking. Ray Dalio's Changing World Order, and I've been able to pinpoint how accurate he is in the changing world order. And then we did our first podcast together, and you brought up the Shemitah, and I think that was in 2021, right, when that started, and then 2022 is when it ended in September. Is that correct, or is it ending this September? That was last September, right?
Yeah, that's correct. No, you're originally correct. So it started in
Okay.
September 2021. We connected a little bit before that, and then it ended in September 2022. That was the last time we did a podcast together.
And now, so in the Shemitah, if you don't mind, let's start there. Like in the Shemitah, after the Shemitah year, what happens? What happens with the Shemitah?
So it's very interesting because what we're in right now is not a typical cycle. We're actually in what some people would call a super Shemitah cycle, where it's 7 cycles of 7 years is a 49-year cycle, which leads you into year 50, which we're in right now. And that's called biblical Jubilee. So this is a biblical concept. It's not my opinion. And it's really interesting because I was able to determine when this would go down based off of studying the 1970s and what was going on with the Nixon shock and everything that led into that and after that. So to quickly summarize how it typically goes with a Shemitah cycle, it's when we get our all-time highs leading into the start of it or a little bit after it starts, which is exactly how it went this year. Or this cycle, excuse me. And then into the end of a Shemitah, we get a huge pullback in the market. And that's exactly what we saw happen this time. And what makes this biblical Jubilee concept so incredible is you actually have a positive relief rally as you leave this year. And we're still in that energy today. And it blows my mind to look at the NASDAQ right now and see it ripping to the upside, or to even see, you know, Bitcoin breaking above 30K. We just saw what happened with XRP yesterday. So pretty much this relief rally energy is what to anticipate after the end of a Shemitah. But what people really need to look out for now is that this becomes a bull trap. And that's where we need to be a little bit more sophisticated and kind of hold ourselves back from rejoice and being so like epically happy, because these things don't rally forever, you know? And that's kind of been my calm navigation through this all and trying to keep people level headed that we were anticipating a relief rally, but it doesn't mean we're just going to continue up and up and up forever. I still see into the fall time of this year a deeper correction, and I think it's going to affect everything. It could really be an everything correction.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I've been talking, I would think it was June 2022 when I started preaching this. And, I followed the macroeconomics and the interest rates and, the inverted bond yields and all that stuff. And so, family, what we're heading into is interest rates are going to continue to go up. Jerome Powell said it over and over again. He was sitting there with other global leaders. This is a global thing happening. As these interest rates come up, Jeremy and I run multiple companies, and we sit there. When we see interest rates going up, money is not cheap anymore, guys. And so if you're sitting at the top of a company, we have a CFO who is very customer centric, very team member centric. He does the opposite, but this isn't what most CFOs do. So he is customer or team member centric. We get more productive so we can keep our team members keeping up with inflation. But what most CFOs do are number based. So they sit with the CFO or the COO and the CEO, and they say, listen, guys, we are bleeding. We are bleeding right now. What is the number one cost in companies? Team members. So they start to cut cost. And if Mrs. Jones loses her position at the gas station, she no longer is buying gas. She can't service her loans. The banks are in a liquidity crisis right now. You're seeing the mid-tier banks going to be monopolized by the big banks. So I wanted to talk to you about that because what I see is a massive shift in the job market. Everybody's saying, oh, the job markets are in good shape, JV, you're crazy. I said, it's like a ripple, like you throw or you see a boat going in like a really clear pond or a clear lake, right? Those ripples start to go out from the back of the boat, and now they're going to be coming to shore in Q3 and Q4 around the economic picture. What are your thoughts on that in regards to like how you look at it from numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this relief rally that we're getting right now is kind of proof of the euphoria. And when you have to think of how the market maker likes to operate, they get you really, really greedy at the worst time. So if you were to stare at charts right now, you'd be very greedy and you'd have this FOMO energy. You'd want to get in. But that's like again, it's a typical setup. So I feel like this is a setup. And I know the next FOMC meeting is in about 10, 11 days. I guess we'll kind of, have some volatility leading to that as we typically do. But then with those meetings in September, October, I mean, I do really anticipate there to be some rhyme and reason for a larger correction. Fed now going live pretty soon. Who knows how this is all going to shake out leading into the end of this month. So it's a perfect time for us to connect because kind of prepares people a couple months in advance for what could be going down in this crypto market. And one of the ideas that I shared with Bearable Bull, I did an interview with him recently, and he wanted to know, like, what do I believe would be the reason for a very large spike in XRP price? And I told him that it would not be the SEC case settling. It would not be that. I said what I believe it will be is a washout of the shitcoin market. So when these 20,000 shitcoins go away, that liquidity needs to go somewhere else. And it's going to be like that dot-com bubble moment where you saw 3 to 4 companies rise out of that, devastating correction. So I don't think it's going to be as extreme for this market in regards to the recovery comparatively to what the dot-com bubble was like, because that took a long time to recover. I think crypto is the new asset. It's poised for adoption. We're right there. We're like on the cusp of that transition. So I'm not comparing it in that regard. I just mean the kind of scenario of watching a washout of 95% of the bad actors, and that liquidity has to go somewhere.
Yeah, I agree with you. So a couple things. I want to dive into that, and I want to talk to you about August because I've gotten some insight. Well, these YouTubers say they have insight, but got some information, and I want to ask you some questions on August. Nothing that's earth shattering, guys. I'm not part of any elite groups or anything like that. But the thing I wanted just to recap around what you said is, as I was listening to Senator Loomis and Gillibrand, they were talking about, you have your crypto security, you have your cryptocurrency and your commodity. They have already deemed Bitcoin a commodity. Now we know XRP is a currency. And I was saying this, like your favorite influencers that created crypto coins, none of them followed SEC rules. They're sitting on securities. These cryptos are securities. And so based on SEC rules and laws. And so, like I said, you're going to see, just like you said, you're going to see a smashing of all these cryptocurrencies. And it's going to be an interesting dynamic. And it goes back into macroeconomics, right? And when there's money printing like crazy or quantitative easing, venture capitalists, right? There's a bunch of money flowing into the markets. going back to the macroeconomics around what you're talking, they cut off the M2 money supply, guys. So they cut off the money supply. So our money supply is going straight down. Right now, they're going to start to come back into this new ecosystem where cryptocurrency is going to be the new financial system. I believe 2025 to 2030, you're going to see Wells Fargo Bank, Bank of America, all your big, large banks are going to start custodying your cryptocurrency. And the whole narrative around is how unsafe cryptocurrency is. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, and that's the setup. And I've been watching a couple of these things come into this crypto conversation quite recently with Ledger. Remember, they had some sort of update of a firmware that was gonna, share your seed phrases or whatever the hell people thought. And really, all it was a custody option, for them to for them to be a custodian of those private keys. And these sorts of things are going to create a lot of FUD around hardware wallets. And then you're going to go, well, where do I put my crypto? Just like we had what happened with FTX and Celsius and all of that. And you're going to go, well, where do I put my crypto? And now there's so much confusion. But then what do you know? A couple weeks after all that goes down, the market goes up. So it's just like all this kind of, smoke and mirrors, look here, and you get distracted with FUD. And it's always when the market tends to reverse. So I think they're psychologically preparing people for there to be something that goes down where they need a solution. And government loves making you, beg for solutions. That's how they end up looking like the good guy, right? That's always how it is. So, it's pretty interesting when you know the chess game. And I could see that the chess game is here with what happened with FTX, what happened with Terra Luna, what happened with even SEC coming after Binance US and Coinbase a couple weeks ago. It was all this negativity, all this FUD. And again, market continues to go the opposite. So I think in the next bull run, the way it's going to go is not the way that we experienced this last two times in 2017 and 2020 to 2021. I think it's going to be a different style of run, and it's going to have a much more sophisticated investor. And they're going to play with their money in a much different fashion. And you're probably going to see institutional adoption. So you're going to see much more volume, much higher market caps. But the distribution of it will be in less stuff. It will be in way less products, as opposed to in the last bull run, it was between 10,000 to 15,000 nonsense projects that were just in the right place at the right time. And since then, they've all lost 95 to 99% of their value. So it's proof of what I just said.
Oh, 100%. I love that. So I want to talk to you about what your thoughts are as we move. So we got a lot of stuff happening in July. You brought up August, the G20 meeting. It's either at the back end of this month so we have a lot of things happening. The G20's meeting, the BIS put the recommendations for the G20. By the end of this year, the BIS said that they will have global recommendations for cryptocurrency, right? So we went from if to when, right? They're implementing now. So we have the G20 meeting very, very soon. We have all this stuff happening with the BRICS, Brazil, India, Russia, China, South Africa. I think Saudi Arabia is becoming part of that, 19 other countries. So we have all these things happening globally with the financial system. I keep hearing that there's going to be a big transformation in August. Like, what are you seeing in August with the way you look at things?
Well, this is where we're going to have to shift into like the decoding perspective, because that's, what I focus on the most with my work is this decoding strategy. And there's going to be a blue moon in August. And that's when we have two full moons in the same month. So I realized this about a month ago. I don't pay attention too much to the future, only when I need to. And this is actually preparing a decode that I'm working on right now that I'm going to release maybe earlier this upcoming week. It's called August Blue Moon Decoded. And it's utilizing the same strategy that I had to determine a couple of other big events this year. So I'm not going to go too deep into that, but needless to say, August has that blue moon. And I think that's enough for me of how rare those are. They're about every 2.5 years. And the setup here into this September, October timeframe that I spoke to you about earlier, which I've already been exposing for almost a year now. I've been telling people, look at the S&P, look at the Dow, look at the NASDAQ. Every Shemitah, if you go 1 year after the end of a Shemitah, you have a larger correction. This is what happened in 2007, 2008. It's what happened during the dot-com bubble. It's what happened in the bond crisis of 94. I could keep going. Okay. So it's really important that people realize that the lows are never the initial leg down. It's after the relief rally that we have, which we're in right now. And that's gonna like it's gonna be like this side swiping kind of energy feel. So
Mm,
August to me feels like the pivot month. If there's
mm,
going to be a month where this pivot happens, it's going to be that month. And to dial it in specifically is really, really difficult, because when we're in
yeah.
crypto, we're going 24/7 every single day, every minute we're trading. It's not like the stock market where we get those weekends off. So sometimes people, we're just too used to the candles moving all the time. So if I give people dates and get into like the nitty gritty right
Yeah.
now, as the days are going by, they're going to start to be like, oh, well, when is it going to happen? Well, when is it going to happen? And that's a really big reason to utilize technical analysis to actually know levels of when we start to break those levels. It confirms continuation of a downtrend. So needless to say, I mean, if we started to see Bitcoin break below 25,000 again, and that would be lights out moment for us. I think the entire crypto market will start to correct dramatically, regardless of this recent win for Ripple. It will
Yeah.
bring XRP down too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's break into that because a lot of people that, yesterday was an exciting time, and I'm not diminishing the exciting time for everybody. It's a very exciting time. It was really cool. I had the dopamine, super excited. But now we're in the nitty gritty, guys. Like, this is what I want to talk to you about is really the emotion, the intelligent investor taking understanding, like you said, like I look at macroeconomics, I watch all these moves the G20 makes, the BIS, all, World Economic Forum, things like that. So the emotions, the dopamine's off, right? And so everybody was messaging back and forth, and oh my God, it only went up to, when's it going to go to $10? When's it going to do this? And I'm like, what I really want to help educate people on is understanding the game, right? It went up 67%. That's a massive increase. I want to help people understand that. Like the crypto is, I feel has trained people to, because I think a lot of, and this is, please, I'm saying this to everybody in the highest amount of respect because I want to educate people. And I was one of those people 4 years ago. I'm just being transparent, even coming from the banking system. We're getting 100 times, 300 times. Some people get 1,000x on their money. That's not normal in the markets, right? So when
No.
people saw it end, I mean, people were like, Lambo time. I mean, everybody's like, time to get my Lambo. And I'm hoping that we can be the voice of reason and the voice of calm. Number one, your first thought shouldn't be, I'm going to get a Lambo when your XRP goes parabolic. You're going to be broke, 100% going to be broke. So we have to rewire the brain and the foundation. And that's why I love talking to you and the wise counsel that I seek, which is you and other mentors and things, because it allows me to stay calm and understand that this is a massive emotional game that they're playing with us 100%. Like every move I see when XRP started going up, I'm like, of course it's not going to continue to skyrocket up. There's cycles that are happening. There's not institutional adoption. So what is your thought process? And like you just brought that up, like XRP is going to come down too, guys. Like it's not, it just because we got the win of the case. This is just the beginning. That's what I've been saying to people. Today's the beginning. That's it. All it is now is what I'm seeing is if I had a crypto coin or I was a XRP company or Stellar or all this stuff, I'd be sitting there. If I wasn't like one of the, if I didn't know I was a currency, I'd be like, oh shit. like oh shit, like if I couldn't deem that I'm like an XRP or an XLM that's clearly a currency, right? And I'm sitting in the boat now with my CFO and COO going, dude, we're a security, dude. So there's so much that has to happen now in the process. And I guess what I'm asking you is like, how do you guide your people around the emotional responses to this? Do you do it based on understanding, the numbers and the cycles, and how do you keep people calm through this process?
Well, the number one thing is it's my demeanor. Like I learned before I even started the YouTube thing as an educator and other endeavors. Like you just got to be a real one, And there's a lot of this like fuckery with like the being dramatic shit, getting
Mm,
people on that dramatic vibe. And
yeah,
like that's just not the way I am. So like I'm the kind of good person that's like in the fire saving the, finding the solutions while people are staring at the fire with their mouth like on the floor. It's just the way I've been for a long time. And it has a lot to do with my upbringing too. Like
yeah,
growing up in New York and Brooklyn and like all of that story, like you just kind of move a different way. You feel me? So
yeah,
there's something to that. There's something to that. Like being like a 11-year-old with a single mother and like you have to look over your shoulder to protect your mother, even though you're 11. That
mm,
builds a different type of like callus on you,
yeah,
It's a different type of thickness of skin. So now in this crypto game, I'm like, whatever. you know, and a big thing came about just from spiritual, you know, growth and
Yeah,
just really tapping into that consciousness. And if you're taking this money shit that seriously to where it's depressing you, then like, man,
bro.
we gotta have deeper conversations then, you know? And this is it. Like the reason why people are so happy during bull runs and then they're sad during the rest of the time is because they've literally allowed this market to rule their emotions. Like
Mm,
they have zero connection to their own feelings anymore because they allow something else to govern their feelings for them. And
mm,
that's not life. That's basically like a zombie. You
yeah.
know, when you really think about it, you're basically a zombie. So I was really lucky when I started the channel that I saw all of that being the popular way of delivery of so-called content, and I knew that I would never deliver that type of content. So I keep people calm by, you know, the demeanor first and foremost, but then secondly, I have proof to back up what we're talking about here. You know, when
Yeah.
you study 100 years of stock market trends and you see that every 7 years there's a noticeable, you know, explosion in liquidity, and then we have a large pullback, and it just so happens to be that all of our famous stock market crashes land on these particular cycles, then boom, there you go. Like for 2.5 years, the people following my work have been prepared for this.
Yeah.
Um, and it's dialed in, you know, and I'm not perfect, by the way. I'm getting better and better every month. I need to remind people of that. Like there is some crazy wizardry going on here sometimes, but like I'm not here to call myself, I would
Yeah.
never call myself like the king of the charts or any of that egoic bullshit. Like I'm a
Yeah.
humble, you know, kind of decoder at heart, you know. So I'm here to collaborate with people. That's really what I appreciate about you. And I think that's where I want to tap into in this space. The more we collaborate with different communities and share
Uh,
truth without the tribalism and without the I'm right and you're wrong or I'm better at reading the charts than you, all that energy needs to go away. And like
yes.
that energy will die with me. It will not be a part
Yeah.
of anything that I'm a part of. So that's really it, you know, like, but that doesn't make me popular because I say a lot of shit that offends people and it makes people squirm. And I guess another thing that comes from my upbringing, like when I was growing up, we were taught to take, you know, the wisdom from our elders or the people that have been there before you, and
Mm,
don't let your emotions, you know, get in the way of their truth that they're trying, their wisdom that they're trying to impart on you. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And we're
One.
living in this world that it wants everything yesterday. You brought it up before, like people are making
Mhm.
their investments to determine when they're going to buy their Lambo. Like, what do you what
That's
kind of
fu-
investment thesis is that?
mhm.
You know? So there's gonna
Yeah.
be a group of people that you're gonna waste your money on luxury cars and liabilities, and I'm gonna be starting an animal sanctuary. So,
Mhm.
like, where are we at? You know, like, and it's the same thing when it comes to these short-term moves in XRP. I think you remember best when I first met you and we talked about these markets. I was publicly talking about taking profits at $1 XRP, 140, 160,
Mhm.
170. And I was
Yeah.
getting, you know, crucified for that because people wanted me to tell them a lie. They wanted me to tell them that's going to go to 589 or whatever.
Mm,
But why was I taking profits? I was taking profits because I had to feed myself and the people I support.
yeah. Yep.
Like I'm not here for the what
Yeah.
ifs. Like if I have an investment thesis and I'm an analyst and I know where I need to take profits, well, if that profit taking actually keeps food on my table, then who is another man to tell me that I'm wrong?
Mm, love
So
it.
that's another part to this, you
Yeah.
know, like people, when you design your investment thesis, guys, like think about more than just the respect from the other people because you so-called won. And I
Mm,
think you brought up that energy before. If
yep.
you're going out right away and telling people that we won because we were right because XRP won the case, you know, that energy is just like that's loser energy. You
Mm,
know, you're bigger and better than that. Like, so create an investment thesis that's centered around your purpose, not being utilized as a tool to serve someone else's purpose.
that's beautiful, man. So I'm going to dive into two things. I'm going to talk because there's a lot of comments about the Lambo, and I want to bring this up. But one thing I want to share, I want to recap that was very powerful that you said. It's like all these people, and I'm not going to assume it. I'm not pull the log on my own. I'm just going to share my perception of what I've seen. Is that all these people trying to escape the traditional financial system to go into a decentralized sovereign system, supposedly, right? But they get into a decentralized sovereign system, and then they get tribal or religious about a cryptocurrency start fighting against each other, which is the exact same system that we're trying to break free from now. It's like this
Precisely.
whole, yeah, this whole energy, we're all getting trapped on all these things. And I don't even call them the elites, the people who the money just goes into one pool and it's always there, right? And the thing is, we all have access to that money. And I want to tap into the Lambo thing really quickly. So what I mean by this when I say this to you guys is not in disrespect. Like, for example, I love fast cars. If you see me driving a Lambo, I didn't pay for it. That's the type of energy that we need to understand, is we need to transition our brains from the indoctrinated trading time for money to allowing money to free up time and to buy luxuries from things that generate cash flow. It's just a different way of thinking. It's just a different hemisphere of the brain, and you can use money as a currency, and if you choose to, like you said, my shaman said to me when I was in Peru last year, he said, because he always asked me these profound questions that it's just an open-ended question. He's not trying to give me an answer. We're sitting in Peru, I was deep in the medicine, in this garden. He said, listen, JB, he said, what does money mean to you, man? And I thought it was some, like, because I'm always building businesses and stuff. And it finally hit me. And I said, you know what money means to me? Sitting in a garden with you in Peru for 11 days, not worrying about anything. And he just walked away. And I was like, there we go. My paradigm has switched dramatically from 4 years ago. Money to me was identity. It was like, look at me, I run all these bits. Look at this. It has nothing to do with it. And now that I've embodied this new frequency of the more people that I can make millionaires and the more people that I can help get access to this thing we call currency, which is just an energy frequency. That's all it is. And the magic trick that I've learned within my own life is that the only difference between me and a billionaire is information. And if I access that information held for a long enough period of time, and I do the disciplined, consistent activities with good intentions in alignment with God for me, that eventually it comes to me. And that's what I'm experiencing right now. So I want to dive a little bit deeper. Let's fuck the charts, man. Fuck XRP. Let's dive a little bit deeper into this, because I love talking to you, man. I'll never forget this. And I brag about this a lot to people, or I give you a lot of edification to people. I remember, when we were first building our business, it was a while ago. And I had talked to you, and I have chills, man. I talked to you about, I love Christ. I love Christ consciousness. I am driving deeper and deeper and deeper into the highest level of consciousness I can experience as a physical being on this earth, and becoming a true creator. I'm not God. I'm saying creating businesses and stuff. And I remember I sat with you, man, and we dove into Christ consciousness. I think I talked to you for like an hour, and I got off the phone. I'm like, this dude knows something. Like I know we talked about this before, but there's a lot of new people getting, we keep growing in our following. So do you. It's like there's a lot of new people here. Like, where did you start to embody that level of Christ consciousness and knowing of Christ? Like, and I'm not saying you believe a certain thing. I'm just saying, like, because when I talked to you for that hour, you're the one actually that sparked my interest. And I started studying everything. I started studying the Quran. I started studying all different Bibles. And because I want to know how humanity and how these great leaders that walk this earth reached and tapped into that consciousness. So how did you get that level of knowledge, man?
It happened by forgiving my father.
Wow.
That was all. That was it. The moment that I decided that I don't need to hate him, and I don't need to continue to feel better about myself through my hate and fear of him, that was the moment that it all shifted for me. So just by having forgiveness for the person that you think is your biggest enemy or your biggest problem, yeah, that's a paradigm shift. So that was it. The moment I decided to make that change, wow, like I would wake up at 4 in the morning and I would have information swimming around my mind that I never even read in a book. Like I never even needed to research. Like it was just there. So it's pretty wild. Like to really have unconditional love is quite a challenge in this physical realm, and all of us say we believe that it's something that's possible. But we very rarely put in the effort to actually try to embody unconditional love. Right. So I think that's it. Like forgiveness is huge.
It is. Yeah, that's beautiful, man. It's interesting what you just said. And I hope I want to repeat this because so people can hear this in the back, because what just happened, XRP goes up and then you see all these tweets around. See, I told you so. You're trying to access abundance, but your immediate response is hate. right? So you're moving yourself into a lower frequency, and you're looking like what you said is, so I forgave, and it released. And like you think of Judas sitting on the right judgment, you released judgment, and you opened up the right hemisphere of the brain. You went up into higher consciousness, and you said something powerful. And I've stated this to my team many times. I said, I don't read the Bible, but I know the Bible. I'll say it again. I don't read the Bible very often, but I know the Bible. And the more I forgive, and the more I'm gonna start crying, man. The more unconditional that I get. And when I love people unconditionally without expectations, I get more access to information. I don't know, man. And
Yeah.
that's just how it works. That's how it works for me, man.
Yeah.
You know?
It's because we live in a world where we can't realize purity and we can't realize how beautiful this world actually is. Like even spiritual people, bro. Like one of my least favorite things that I hear spiritual people talking about is this ascension into 5D or some sort of like, it's like they're not even happy here. Yo, if you're not happy in the matrix, how are you going to be happy when you leave it? Like,
Mm,
bro, this is the greatest place you'll ever visit. You better fall in love with this. Like, go outside and look at a squirrel, look at a butterfly, look at a tree, look at a
mm,
rose, look at the garbage. Look at the garbage cans spilling out in
mm,
the road and the homeless person dumpster diving. Like, if you can't find those things beautiful, like how are you really gonna tap into life? You know, and that's it. Like a lot of people are disregarding these things and they think that life is happiness or life is the pursuit of wealth or life is the pursuit. I tell people this all the time, don't pursue happiness, pursue life. You know,
mm,
and life is just this presence. It's what you said before when you were in the garden with your shaman. What you tapped into is this presence. And in that now, you saw it all, you felt it
mm,
all, and you were experiencing it all. And once you're there, you know, it's really hard to articulate these sort of things with words. It really is, right? Like it's a feeling state. And people think that they're going to be able to get there through material goods or through this through vanity or through but that's going
mm,
to take a while. If you want to do it that way, man, like there's going to be a lot more obstacles than you want to deal with. And once you really do that deep inner work, you start to see how easy stuff gets. Like it
mm.
really does. It becomes easy because you've removed the desire and you just
Yes.
let it be as it is. I think the final thing to say on this thought is like if you're going about life trying to identify the rights and wrongs, you're never going to be able to accept things as they are.
Mm.
You know, really the highest levels of consciousness are not when you're here to say this is good and that is bad. It is when you're able to realize why it is.
Why? Yeah, when I detached from matter, everything started to matter for me, man. Everything, like everything started to matter, you know? And you said it like why? Like why is something? Like that's how I got to this point speaking to you was when I was in banking school in 2015 and I asked the teacher, I said, "Why is it this way?" He said, "Cuz that's the way it's always been." I said, "That doesn't mean it's right." And that's what started this whole journey. I was like, "Well, why is it this way?" He said, "Read a book called The Creature of Jekyll Island." And then I started I have not stopped
Mm.
asking why. I have not stopped. I'm like, "Why?" So why is it that way? Why is it that way? And then I become a student of this world, right? And it's like and it goes into the whole thing where I was talking about reading different things, like because I put my prayers on Twitter every day and I get the judgment of, oh, you should pray in your closet. I'm like, I should, but I don't. And I'm like, so when I get to my maker, if he's mad at me for putting prayers and love out to the frequency field, then so be it, man. So be it. And it was interesting. So one of them messaged me and said, you should read the Quran. So I started reading the Quran. I think it's pretty remarkable, man. There's some lot of really cool stuff in there. Am I going to convert to Muslim? No, but I'm not. I'm not anything. I'm not Muslim. I'm not Catholic. I'm not. People say, are you Christian? I'm Christ-like. I follow the life of Christ as close as I can. I live by one rule, the golden rule, right? Or not the golden rule is treat others as you want to be treated, but I live by love God with all my heart, therefore love humanity and my brothers and sisters the same way. And my life has worked out pretty well since I started doing that, man. You know?
The thing that I think could be helpful for people when they're getting into theology, when they're trying to figure out what is the way, whether they're, you know, conflicted with the current thing that they subscribe to, or they're trying to find a deeper, greater truth in something else. For instance, with this Quran example, it's important to seek without the desire to control. So
Mm,
when you just are seeking and you don't have the desire to have it go against the thing that you previously acquired or the information that you know, this is what it makes it a conflict for you because now you're at tug of war between this is the better way and that's the not so good way. And that's not wisdom. Wisdom
Mm,
isn't about this duality consciousness. It's about the unification of all. So once you tap into truth, you don't really see it with labels anymore. You see it more for how it makes you feel. It's not that it's coming from Muslims or coming from Christians or coming from any particular ism or ist. It's that it's aligning with your vibrational frequency, and that makes you feel something. This is
mm,
really the most beautiful part of creation, right? Creation has this feeling state once you've witnessed it, or once one of your sensory, once your sensory gets to be stimulated by it, it's up to you now. And we live in a world where nobody really wants to be feeling what they think is good for them. They're waiting around for people to tell them what is good for them.
mm.
They're
Yeah.
waiting around for somebody to say, this is the right way to eat. This is the right religion. This is the right political movement. This is the
Mm,
proper person you should vote for. This is the guy who's telling truth. This is the guy who's telling lies. And what
mm.
does this do? This removes self. So like
Yes.
really the growth comes from how does it make you feel? You don't need to worry about is waters above telling you the right thing or the wrong thing. It's how do you feel? It's not
Mm,
about Coach JV's telling you facts or lies. It's how does it make you feel? And when you start utilizing that, methodology, you start to see like you extract the wisdom and you mine consciousness in a way that's, it expedites your journey. Not that you should be trying to rush this, but feeling is the speed of light and faster, right? It's when
mhm.
your mind gets in the way that slows shit down.
Yes. I I I'm living what you're saying, and I'm resonating with this so much because it's like when released other people's opinion of me, and I stopped waiting for a savior, realized I was already saved. I started accessing new information based on how I wanted to feel, and I held that information. And then I activated on the information, discipline and consistent, writing down my goals, looking at the short term, midterm, long term. My short term goals were aligned with the feeling and frequency that I wanted to embody. My life is radically different. Radically different. I'm a completely cellularly structured different person from 5 years ago. It's when I stopped waiting for Trump to come back or this person to do this or XRP to go
Right.
to 589. When I stopped waiting for Bitcoin, because like you brought up a really good point to think about is that everybody was okay. So people were saying XRP is going to go to zero. XRP is, well, now it didn't. So what's your narrative now? And it didn't now. So what? So what's in there? So it's like, and it's not a bash against that person. It's about asking yourself, what are you waiting for? So when you're saying that stuff, you could replace that with actions and behaviors and actionable items and unconditionally loving other people. Because for example, I have no idea someone that's judging me, what they're doing with their life. Therefore, they don't wake up with me. They don't spend their day with me. They don't know the actionable items that I'm doing. So why would I even respond to somebody who's bringing hate to me, right? So it's such an interesting dynamic. And
Yeah.
when it comes to religion, religion means connection, right? And if anything's detaching you from your connection, which is your feeling, right? Then is that truly something you should be following?
Yeah, man, you brought up so many things and it works in the other direction too with like when I wake up in the morning, like Joe Biden isn't like feeding me breakfast in bed. Like when Trump was the president, he wasn't paying my electric bill. Like he wasn't taking like, he wasn't giving me a foot massage. Like these people are just player characters, man. They have nothing to do with your reality. Like
Mm,
Putin and Zelensky don't exist in your reality unless you let them exist in your reality.
mm,
And 99% of people that are here right now, you will never meet any of those people I just named. If you
mm,
think they have some influence on the collective, then that's on you. And if you believe that, you will become that. So if you want to escape this so-called problem, it changes with the way that you utilize your thoughts and it changes with the way that you utilize your prana.
mm,
I love using that word because I feel like it's the best way to simplify it all. What you brought up before is like what I would call, what are you allowing to
mhm.
have your prana? What are you giving your life force essence to? Because
Yeah.
whatever you give that energy to, whether that's in lack or abundance, you will start to slowly transform into that thing. So,
Mm,
what easier way to do that than to do that with other people who are on your frequency, And we're really lucky at this time, actually, for all the people that
yes.
want to bash the internet and bash technology and bash all of this, internet stuff and Zoom. It's like everyone has something to say about all these things, but it's been able to make us connect. You know,
Mm,
like I'm super grateful for this microphone and for this laptop and for this internet connection I have right now, because I wouldn't be able to connect with you otherwise. So use this tool, man, because it doesn't need to
yeah.
be a weapon. I know that it is a weapon for most. Like people wake up and the first thing they're doing is on TikTok and they're looking at porn, and like it's just, I get it. I'm not judging them. I'm just saying, check in with yourself. How are you using these things? And then take an inventory of how you're, utilizing your time. And you'll quickly see that once you become consciously aware of how you use your time, you'll start to shift your behavior. It's called
Mhm.
stalking yourself, which is God. God is the witness of all.
Mm.
That's already you. You are the witness of all, like, and people need to realize this. Like, it's when you are not aware of your actions and your thoughts and your behavior that you start to be used by the system. And
Yeah.
all it wants out of you is prana. It doesn't want your money. The system does not want your money. People are like, oh, well, taxes exist. They don't need your tax money. They print the money. You think they need your
Right.
taxes? They have a
Nope.
fucking printing press. They walk
Hmm.
over to a keyboard and press two buttons, and $1 trillion pops up out of
Yeah.
nowhere, and no one questions it. They don't
Yeah.
need your tax dollars. They didn't need you to be scared of a germ during C-19. They didn't need you to take the V.
Yeah.
They didn't need you to wear a mask. They didn't need you to do any of that. You just decide how you're going to respond. So you're
Mm.
either reacting or responding. It's on you. And when it comes to this market, when it comes to behavioral economics and all that other stuff, like it's all playing its role in all of this. So once you correct this in one part of your life, it starts to lend itself to all the other parts of your life. And I know that you can vouch for this. And once
Hmm.
you changed a little aspect of this, it started to affect business. It started to
Yeah.
affect your relationships. It started to probably change the way you are as a father, as a leader, as just
Mm.
like somebody who's like really, you've embodied this truth now and you can't go back. It's like Pandora's box.
You can't. You said something powerful. You said check in with yourself, and it resonated with something that someone said to me recently. They said, "JV, I talk openly about my walk with Christ, and I use my social media. It's my social media. It's my expression of my journey. That's what it is, basically. So it's like when people question me, I'm like, you're just questioning my expression of my journey. And they said, JV, based on the way that you believe in Christ, I'm questioning my religion. And I said, are you questioning your religion or yourself? And they're like, well, what do you mean by that? I said, so what religion is I'm Catholic? And I said, do you have a Bible? He said, yeah. I said, so are you following everything in Proverbs? Well, no. I said, so you're questioning your religion or yourself? I said, what do you do on a daily basis? What are your activities? What time do you wake up? Do you exercise? Do you eat properly? Well, no, no, I'm not. So is it your religion that's the problem, or is it the activities and behaviors you're doing that's making you feel like there's a problem and you're trying to blame something outside of yourself? And I want to ask you a question about that. So you said the matrix, right?
Yeah.
So people keep saying escape the matrix, but I feel like I came from the womb, the matrix, and I'm creating my own. Like I don't feel like I have to
Yeah.
escape anything. Like I'm not escaping anything. I'm creating, like it's so unrealistic within the physical construct of the world for me to be in where I'm at other than my belief in it, right? Like for me to go from drug addict 17 years ago to suicide to losing my money 3 times, being on my parents' couch 4 years ago to financially
Mhm.
free, it was it was nothing short of me just creating my own matrix instead of trying to escape everything and run from something. Like, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts? You keep hearing these creators like escape the matrix. Like, what does that mean, man?
Well, yeah, like you brought up something that I think I touched on a little bit earlier before, of like these so-called spiritual people that talk about ascension and like how they want to leave this prison planet and how it's a soul trap. And I'm like, you're so ungrateful for this physical experience of stimuli that like, do you really feel like you're going to be able to make it on the other side? Like you're not prepared for what you're even desiring.
Right.
So I'll make it very, I'll simplify this. First of all, most people don't even know the origin of the word matrix. It comes from the French matrice, which means womb. It literally means womb. That's where that term comes from. So, what is the matrix? It was the delivery of the king. Who is the king? Well, when the head of the baby starts coming out of the mother, they call it a crowning. You've already become king. This is all terms and it's hidden in spells. in language spells.
Mhm.
This is why you're delivered to the doctor, who's the dock man, like the one who receives you at the port, at the sea. This is maritime law. Most people don't know these word spells, they don't know the etymology. So you are already crowned king. You've come here through the matrix. It's not that you're here to escape it and that's somehow you leveling up or beating the game. You literally are the matrix. Your mind is the matrix. So when anyone's trying to sell you on this shit that you could escape it, that's nonsense. The
Mhm.
mind is of the body, it's of the physical. That is the matrix. Stop trying to escape something. If anything, reconnect back to it. And that's what you brought up earlier. Religion comes from religare, which means to bind together. The issue here is the Roman Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, has indoctrinated people and brainwashed them into prescribing belief externally as opposed to belief within. And when
Mhm.
you put that belief within you, this is what makes you take action.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're operating on the other frequency, which is the victim, the playing the blame game, looking for
Mhm.
the savior. See, if you believe in an external, therefore you will always think of that with all the actions you take. You will always feel judged and you'll always wonder, should I be doing this or should I be doing that? You're left with these choices. This is why the Matrix movie is so dope, because one of the key scenes in the
Mhm.
Matrix, when he finally meets the architect, he starts seeing that he's been the one that's been making choices and one thing led to the next, it led to the next, and it finally made it to this point. But then when
Yes.
he makes the ultimate choice to have Trinity die, and that's what he learns from the Oracle. And when she tells him that he already made the choice, he's devastated. He's like,
Mhm.
no, that can't be true. He starts to externalize it, and that separates him from the oneness. See, Neo is just an anagram for one, but where Neo actually truthfully comes from is it's the prefix to neophyte. It's what like the Freemasons or some like secret orders or the Druids. It's what they would call their initiates. Neo is a neophyte, and then he eventually wakes up and he finds out that he is the Matrix. It's not
Mhm.
that he's in the Matrix, it's that he is it.
Interesting. Well, Jesus said, in the end, when you're at the end, you will find the beginning. In the beginning, you'll find the end. He said, look in the sky, the birds will precede you. Look in the ocean, the fish will precede you. Look inside, I'm translating, loosely translating, you'll find that you are the king. In the beginning is the end, your decisions, your actions, your behavior. So as people judge on this, whatever, they look one way, they say whatever it is, and they go off and they resist this. It's it doesn't matter how much you resist something, correct? It matters the actions and behaviors you put in place, because in the beginning creates the end.
It's always like an Ouroboros. It's like the snake eating its tail. Everything comes full circle, right? This is why we have a lot of circular symbolism in our world. And
Mhm.
truthfully, this all comes back to the inevitable, which is time. From the moment you're born, you walk the path with the Grim Reaper. You have a mortality. You will eventually, this body that we're carrying right now will eventually become something anew. And that's okay. We don't need to be scared of that. But your soul, what you really are, you're not your body, by the way, guys. Like the guy I'm talking to right now is called Coach JV, but that's not his real name. We don't have names in this higher level. Like your spirit, your infinite consciousness. We just have identities here. And it depends on how good you are at working with that identity, is where you expand or where you contract. So
Mhm.
identity is a really interesting thing. And to bring this back to what we were talking about earlier with
Yeah.
Lambos, it's like a lot of people, their identity is the guy who drives the Lambo.
Yep.
It's usually because there's some sort of self-hate there, and the only way to get out of it or escape this, pain that the individual has is through their materialism. And a lot of people actually create business and become wealthy out of scarcity.
Yep.
I even admitted this. I've actually admitted this myself. And that's for you, Coach JV, of
I've
a
been there.
breakthrough that I've had, a breakthrough that I had that wasn't that was solely towards business and being able to like really grow here in um this concept that I'm doing, which I think is more than a business. It's like a lifestyle. And with that being said, I it started to admit, I created a couple of my businesses out of scarcity. And right when I fucking admitted that, everything started getting more abundant. So it's
Yep.
showing me in life, like once this forgiveness and gratitude and all of those steps, once you could become vulnerable, Once you could become vulnerable, that's where the biggest progress is made. So I'm just telling people right now that you don't want to be making decisions out of that scarcity. You don't want to be proving yourself. You don't want to be in any of that. Like, that's really the story of a Christ. It's a
Yeah.
being that doesn't go about this earth to prove, anything. They just take action and show you the way. And whether you want to follow along or you want to disregard or you want to stone them to death, that's on you. Your reality will always be a reverberation off the frequency that you release and how it comes back to you.
So powerful. You talked about identity too, and it's like, what's the best way to control a human being? Take them out of the creative state of mind and remove them from their identity, right?
It's multifaceted, because the ego is in there, and
Yeah.
that's like a protector, but usually a false protector for people that are unbalanced,
Mm.
So anyways, that starts going in a couple different angles, but man, I mean, we went deep.
I love it,
We went
man. I
deep.
love
We
it.
went
So,
deep.
so
I mean, this is what happens when we don't talk for 9 months.
yeah, there's so much to unpack here, and I hope people will see and understand at a very deep level is that, for me, I share this with people all the time. I'm not trying to get anybody to believe in anything I'm saying. I'm trying to get people to believe in themselves. Like I always say, don't trust a word I say, trust the feeling and vibration it creates in your body and act accordingly, right? If you vibrate into my frequency and you vibrate out, that's so be it. And I think the biggest lesson I've learned through just wise, mentorship, and you said something powerful too, which I think is very important for people to understand, is that make sure you're seeking wise counsel. Whatever influencer you're following or creator you're following, make sure it's wise, right? And wisdom comes from, you said, your elders, right? People who have been there, people who have done that. There's plenty of people selling you how to make money online that have never made money online, and they're selling you how to make money online by selling you how to make money online, if you know what I'm saying. There's a lot of people. So, it's so be careful. And it's like, again, it goes back to reconnecting with yourself, your identity, which will allow you to feel like I operate from my sacral. It's like greatest human design coach the world may, is she brings me into my understanding of or I was so fucked up living for the world. I couldn't listen to that in my body. But
Mhm.
now, why do our businesses succeed? Because it's built out of no ego, abundance, love for others and humanity. And it's an or it's a hard ass And I'm willing to say that to someone. I'm like, no, I can't do business with you. Here's why: because I don't align with you. And they're like, oh, what? I'm like, no, this is how I feel. And you said that, you
Yeah.
brought up so many great. This is how I feel about you.
Yep. Precisely. Yeah, you're tapped in, brother. And like I think that's key. Like you can't be a yes man. Too many people are too agreeable. People want to take every single opportunity that crosses paths without scanning it first. Like you
Mm,
got to feel it out. And I'm in a good position because I'm the same guy, whether I'm on a live stream or whether you're on a phone call with me or the interview. Or this is the same way I talk with my mom. It's the same way I talk with everyone. I don't switch up. I'm always this way. So it's an interesting, position to play in because a lot of people don't want to get on an interview with me because they
mhm,
know I'm going to say some spicy shit and it's probably going to offend their audience and like, whatever. But the way I look at it is like if we compromise and we be agreeable and we're always a yes man, you're not protecting your prana. You're not protecting that vital
yeah,
life force energy. And therefore,
yeah,
if the leadership of a company doesn't walk this way, then it's going to corrupt whatever it is that they receive. So this is called blood money. People don't know this. People don't really know the truth about the concept of selling your soul. You know what selling your soul is? It's these kinds of concepts. It's when you start to be agreeable and pretend
yep,
to just earn money. Like
yep,
you want to accept money from people that you don't actually vibe with. You want to do business and shake hands with people that you don't vibe with. And that's
mm,
not the way, family. Like, I'd rather say no to
yeah,
100 people with hundreds of thousands of dollars than, and it happens to both of us. I know this for a fact. Like,
yeah,
when I load up my emails, like, I get the craziest offers. I just got like an offer last week, and I'll be transparent about this. It was like a tech company that does AI, and they wanted to collaborate with me on like the moon
mhm,
cycles and all this stuff that I do, so that they can make some sort of like protocol that's self-thinking trading view application. Bro, they offered me so much money, and I was just like, nope.
yep,
Like, no way, dude, because all of y'all are unconscious. Like, when we're
yeah,
ready to have the real conversation, you're not gonna be there.
mhm,
Like, and I'm
mhm,
not I'm not gonna do that. Like, I know the truth. So you can't accept money from people just because it's a shiny, a shiny token. It's
Yeah,
going to
here's
corrupt you in the long term.
oh, it's so powerful what you're talking about, man. Because, like, you'll see people in the comments saying, like, okay, so people, I want to explain this, and I just want to give people a different perspective. This is not judgment, just a perspective. So, people will come in the comments and say the things we're talking about, blah, blah, blah. So, if you're such a devout, religious Christian, then walk into your work and start preaching your God. And I guarantee you won't, because they won't let you talk about God in your company. So that means you're therefore aligning with an organization that will they'll allow you to come on YouTube and say this type of stuff, but walk into your when I talked about God or said love, I got written up on final warning for telling my team I love them. So I left and created my own matrix, and I can talk about God every single day on my business. I'm like, I love you, God. I also allow my team members to have side hustles and to speak about their religion, to speak about their belief system. My CFO is Buddhist. I follow Christ, like I follow Christ. He's Buddhist. I follow Christ, and we coexist. We have Church of Latter-day Saints. We have people who are Catholic. We have people who are
Mhm.
non-denominational. We have some people that don't even believe. And it's like,
Yeah.
so what is it? And I think that's the biggest thing when that my only pushback to people that comment these things. It's like, so then walk into your work tomorrow and start preaching how much you love God and see if you still have a job. And you won't do it because your commitment to the money and to aligning outside of your belief system is stronger than your commitment to God. That's it.
I think a lot of people don't own their truth. I think
Right.
that's
That's yep.
really like
Yep.
that's
Yep.
where you're going with this for the people that are, that are wondering. Like a simplified concept here is just own your truth,
Yep.
whatever that is. And there's
Yep.
something that I personally love about people that are so direct and so like it's funny. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and we don't know what racism is when we grow up in New York. You just
Mhm.
really in New York City, you don't know it. You have to be like taught it. You learn it like from the outside. You don't feel it from the inside really. And
Wow.
it was interesting when I left there and I went to Portland, Oregon for a couple years, and that is like the most liberal, like people have like pronouns and all this stuff. And I'm not making fun of people right now. I'm just saying like they really, really care about identity there. They care about
Mhm.
identity more than all things, you know? So whilst having those two different realities, I saw what people valued. And there's a
Mhm.
different value system, even in different, different neighborhoods, right? And I urge people go out into the world and explore all of those different value systems. Because even though you're a Christian and you think Scientology is stupid or whatever, like have you spoke to a Scientologist? Have you had a conversation with them? Have you been to their church? And like this is the number one most trolled religion, and that's why I bring it up. I bring it up
Mhm.
I bring it up for a reason. Like Grant Cardone talks about how he's a Scientologist and he's been doing pretty damn well. He had a very similar upbringing story of becoming a he was a drug addict and his life
Mhm.
was falling apart, and then complete 360s. And I was one of the most famous influencers in real estate. So I'm not saying that I support him or what he does.
Mhm.
That's not the case here. It's just there's an example of somebody that joined Scientology later in life, and look at how it changed their ability to comprehend what it is that they do and to level
Mhm.
up the way that they have. That was the missing link that he admits to take himself from where he started to where he is today. Now,
Mhm.
if you go into this thinking that every single Scientologist is a blind, brainwashed imbecile, then how are you going to be able to extract their wisdom?
Mhm.
Because everyone has wisdom and they're dripping it all the time, and you're just not there to catch it in the bucket. So I tell people that, like, on the individual level, just keep your mind where it's at, and don't get too caught up in the I need to be a part of the right team, or this is the wrong team and this person doesn't
Mhm.
know because they prescribe to this. This is where we get the world we're in today, where everyone's fighting religious war. That's
Yeah.
the truth. Like, at the end of the day, really what we're fighting over is usually belief systems. I think even in the semi-conscious communities, which me and you were part of,
Yep.
during the C-19 thing, we saw people breaking up their families just because of
Yeah.
their decision on political opinion,
Yes.
or their position on wearing the mask or not. And to see
Mhm.
somebody go through a breakup with 5, 10 years history with this partner over a mask, it
Crazy.
shows me that the New World Order, they figured out how to do what they do best. Like,
Mhm.
once they could divide you, they could conquer you. So don't let a little piece of cloth over your face be like the determining factor on this beautiful thing you have.
Mhm.
And we let that get the best of us. So it's another
Yeah.
reminder, like it's another reminder. Identity is an interesting thing. Don't let
Yeah.
it consume you, but also be aware that other people have prescribed to their own, and you need to respect that and allow that.
Yeah, I love it, man. I always say, "Come as you are," man. It's like I've learned more by being open and allowing people to cast judgment on me and accepting it for what it is. And what's made me what I am today is when someone judges me, I listen to it with an open heart and I look to see if there's any truth in that. And if there is, sometimes there is truth in it, actually. And it blows my mind. Like, wow, you're right. You're right. And so one of the biggest things too that I want to, somebody said something, what is, I came on here, this is, and I will end with this. It's like, I came on here, what are you guys talking about? This crypto, think about this, crypto, religion, all this, it's humanity. What we're talking about is human consciousness, right? And what I believe is happening within my own paradigm that I've created, the matrix that I created, I believe we're going to go through some chaotic times. But in my paradigm, I think we're going to have peace and prosperity in the next 10 years. That's what I believe. I believe that maybe I'll be living in that paradigm on my own. I know that my life has radically changed. The things that I got from this is really working to understand that be careful what you're identifying with. Also understand each person has their own identity, learn to respect that identity and get drips of wisdom from that identity and become a student, right? Become a student of the game, learning and growing. And it's like, I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I love Jesus, man, so much. It's just his story. And there's so many different interpretations and stories. And like, as we're sitting there, walked up to the guy laying on the mat and he's waiting for this fountain, right? And everybody's jumping over him. He's like, "Hey, do you want to be healed?" He's like, "Yes." He's like, "Get your mat and walk." The dude is waiting for the fountain, right? And it's like, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna get my mat and start walking, man. And if you want to come with me, that's fine. If you want to go, over to the, like the Pharisees, that's fine. Do your thing, man. Let's roll together. So I know we're up to an hour, and I think you're in another time zone. But I love you, man. I love you with all my heart. Let's pick this up. Let's make this a little bit more frequent this year because I think things are gonna get a little hairy on
Absolutely.
the back end of this year. But how can people find you?
Yeah, well, over on my YouTube channel, Waters Above, and other than that, pretty much everything else is linked in the description of those videos. So definitely check out my newest video if you're invested in XRP, because I pretty much dedicated the entire video to that. I just dropped it a couple hours ago, so it's fresh data, and looking forward to reconnecting again, man. I would love to connect with you once a month. I think
Yeah,
that'd
let's
be
do it.
dope to
I'll have
continue the
yeah.
monthly.
Perfect. I'll have her put it on the calendar. And what we'll do too, guys, to make it easier for you guys, after I get this video locked in, I will edit it. And in the description, you'll be able to just click his YouTube name and it'll go right over to his YouTube channel. Well, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Thank you for being open-minded. Thank you for being loved. Thank you for being you. And we appreciate you. And as we always say, warriors, rise, get your shit together. Let's go.